Welcome back. We continue our discussion with James Dean from the Liberal Party. I noticed you've got the policy address there with you. So
yes,
while you were criticizing CY Leung, have you got something more to add with that?
Well, Liberal Party basically is still sort of a business, economic related party. If you look at it, out of 41 pages, only page 5 to page 11 deals with the economy. The rest is all dealing with a livelihood issue and nothing much about politics.
Isn't that pressing right now in Hong Kong? I mean, you're a businessman, so I can understand your concerns about business, but we do have some really pressing livelihood issues, starting with housing.
Yeah.
Not enough housing.
We say that we should strike the right balance, because if you look at livelihood issues, what do you need? You need people, you need money. Hong Kong's government got plenty of money. So on the livelihood issues, all we got to do is some people to make it work. And we're talking about government's #1 topic, which is public housing. Liberal Party fully supports that. But after all the land that government tries to find and then try to build housing, they need people to build it. There simply aren't enough construction workers. So we're saying, government, if you're really such a strong government, you should import, and they agree, they need about 10 to 15,000 construction workers.
But that's a very controversial thing, because then you'll have the trade unions in Hong Kong up in arms instantly.
The trade union group that CY is afraid of is the pro-establishment side that has a relationship with Beijing, not Lee Cheuk-yan. And if you look at it, even I could defend the position. I'm saying that if there's 250,000 people waiting to queue up for public housing, is their interest more important than the interest of the construction workers, who currently are fully employed? They're working full time. That's why private housing aren't being built. That's why MTR are being delayed. That's why government's public housing aren't being built. Hospitals aren't being built. Schools aren't being built. Now, shall we let simply the protection of that small group of people and affecting the rest of Hong Kong? A lot of them also grassroots. Lee Cheuk-yan will be in trouble if we go and solicit vote and say, hey, Mr. Lee, he was the one who's stopping all this housing estate to be built. That's why you're still cram up 4 or 5 in a small unit. So government, I think, should do that. Now, business's concern is that right now, if you keep using all the land to build public housing, the other complaint about rents too high for retail shop, how are we going to handle that? So many tourists in Hong Kong, we say that our infrastructure cannot accommodate them. How do you accommodate them? Either you build more hotels, you build more shopping malls, and then you bring in more merchandise. That's how you solve that problem. So we're saying right now, CY simply is not balancing it. But unfortunately for him, for reasons we don't understand, if he's doing all this good thing on the livelihood issues, why is his polling so low at 40%?
It seems, well, whatever he does, there is somebody, damned if he does and damned if he doesn't. Whatever he does, there's a group of people to oppose him.
Right. Now, the business community could argue that you're not giving us any land to build the things that we want. For example, for strong government, look at the Western Cultural Center. Ever since '97, it's been sitting there. And recently, the chief executive quit. So that means it's put on there doing nothing again.
That one is a bit of a fiasco, because the last expat chief who quit cited health reasons, and then 2 months later he took up another job.
Exactly.
And this latest one has quit for health reasons as well.
So they all quit for health reasons. But whether they quit for health reasons is not my main concern. But why isn't that project go on?
Is there a lot of government interference, you feel, where these CEOs...
I think it's government's indecision. The business sector already saw that for that project, government should build all the auditorium, the cultural center, and all the software, the orchestras, the opera, and all that. But the other ones, the other areas, dealing with shopping center, dealing with hotels and office building, that should actually be on the way. And that will certainly help our poor retailers having to pay high rent to the landlord. They will reduce the rent, and then they will make merchandise more affordable, not only for tourists, but for Hong Kong people also. But they're not doing that. And look at the Kai Tak area. They only built the cruise terminal when I was the chairman of the Hong Kong Tourism Board. The whole Kai Tak runway is still a piece of dirt there. And that's been around for 20 years? Aren't we wasting a lot of our most valuable resources, which is land, sitting there doing nothing?
They're actually talking about looking at country parks.
Well, why do you have to look at country park? Why you're still letting the Kai-Tak runway sitting there and the Central Western Cultural area, the big piece of land sitting there?
Going back to a point you raised, and you're the right person to talk about this since with your experience with tourism as commissioner there. So, tourism board chairman, sorry. Right. And you saw what happened recently in Tuen Mun. We had a virtual riot,
right? Yes.
Right? So, if you look at Tuen Mun, you've obviously been looking at the problems that they have over there. Do you feel local residents here are justified to be developing this resentment towards mainlanders? Because if you look at all the shops, you go down stretches of Causeway Bay and Chim Sa Choy, and you have all these shops that are LV, Gucci, these top brands. These are not for Hong Kong people. These are for mainland people. Okay, fine. So they come in, they do this big kind of shopping, and it helps our economy. But what's happening is now even the roadside mom and pop shops are being removed because the landlords get higher rent from the pharmacies, people. And if you look at, there are just rows of shop fronts that look exactly the same.
Yes.
Milk powder tins outside, crates of basic necessities. Is this the right thing to be doing right now? Is this how we should be developing our economy?
My view of the chief executive of Hong Kong is that he is also the conduit between the Hong Kong people and Beijing government. If I'm the chief executive, I will go to Beijing and say, we have a problem now. There's so many things in the mainland that's not working. The good thing that's working is people in the mainland is getting richer. The bad thing is that you don't have enough merchandise for the people to buy. Too many fake products, vitamins, all sort of things that people are worried about. Milk powder as well. So they keep flooding to Hong Kong to buy things. On the other hand, we have our own problem too. 80% of the so-called, I won't use the word smuggler, that the daily tripper that carries the milk powder and so on, are actually Hong Kong residents. These are our own people. Do you realize that in Hong Kong, if you're on CSSA, that means you don't have a job? But if you go and carry 2 cans of milk powder across the border 3-4 times a day, you get hundreds of dollars to supplement whatever you get from CSSA.
So you're saying the parallel trading problem is our problem, not a result of the the multiple entry holders from Shenzhen who are just pouring in and out?
I know the statistics. Basically, it's both. 20% of the current sort of parallel traders are from the mainland. 80% are Hong Kong people. They're all the poorer people living in the new territories. But still, the 20% I'm talking about is still over 10 million a year. Because they come in, they don't stay overnight. You can see they come in and they go. So if the immigration office have a statistic, that, in my view, should be stopped on the mainland side. We don't need that 20% that come in the morning, buy things and go back.
So you mean you're against the multiple entry arrangement?
We were supporting it way back 10 years ago, but by now, we think that it's being misused. Because at that time, we're saying that Shenzhen is next to us. We should not make them apply for a visa every time they come in. They should give them multiple visa. But multiple visa doesn't mean you enter Hong Kong many times one day. We're talking about you might enter Hong Kong several times a month. That's what we're talking about, multiple visa. So we think that quota, that 10 million, should be given to other cities like Qingdao in Shandong, Xi'an, or up in the northern province, where we have bigger spenders that could come in. We think that when we have tourism coming into downtown, over Hong Kong, not just at the border, buying even things like LV or Gucci, in general, that is acceptable. Now, some people in Hong Kong doesn't like it. But right now, the biggest mess is at Tuen Mun and Sheung Shui, where so many people flood over and buy the daily goods. But what we cannot solve, and CY cannot handle the problem, is that the 80% of the Hong Kong people, the elderlies, that is now supplementing their income every day by going across the border themselves. Especially to do that, or I'm going there anyway, so let's just carry some milk powder or vitamin or whatever. Now, this is a problem that I think as a chief executive, they should have a serious dialogue with Beijing, how this could be handled. Because this problem, I think, will get worse and worse. Main reason is mainland people is getting richer and richer. On the other hand, on the supply side, their products aren't getting any better. More fake products, fake soya sauce, fake milk, everything could be fake nowadays in mainland. So their people want Hong Kong product, which they think is genuine.
You keep blaming CY. Who do you think is going to be a good chief executive then? Because you're saying he also has a very good chance to become CE again for a second term. So who should replace him?
I think it's a tough job. When you ask me, I say it's a tough job. Because this one country, two system, you cannot really just reflect this anywhere else in the world. But I think the current structure is that the chief executive could not belong to any political party. But I think whoever that's the chief executive today seriously got to say that, hey, I'm the chief executive, but I'm not the boss. I better get all the political parties in Hong Kong, please all sit down. Pandem pro-establishment, labor, business. Let's make Hong Kong work. The 20 of you, being my supporters, my ministers, in the Legislative Council, out of the 70, I think there's only 20 of us that could sort of influence the rest through political party or whatever. It's going to help you run as a coalition government. And the version is right now, CY saying, I'm the boss, you all work for me. And now, whether the idea is a good idea or not, the Pandem simply aren't buying. And some of our pro-establishment aren't buying too. So if you ask me who could play that role, I've said that openly. Currently, I think the Chief Secretary, Carrie Lam, will be a candidate. Simply because she can talk to everyone. She can talk to the media. She can talk to the students. She can talk to the Pandem. So I think we need some Chief Executive who is more like able to accommodate other view to make Hong Kong work. Because if you have a strong Chief Executive, which sounds good, strong leadership, but when you're strong leadership and you have no votes in the Legislative Council, how can you be strong?
What about yourself?
I'm too old for that. I'll be 70 in 2017. If I'm 10 years younger, I might consider doing that.
All right, that's all we have time for, but thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you, thank you.
And thanks for watching Newsline. I'll see you again next week.